So, what happens when the four walls of a courtroom just aren't enough to get to the truth? Well, today, we're diving into one of the most interesting and, powerful procedures in the legal world. It's when the judge, the jury, even the accused pack up and leave the courthouse to go visit the actual scene of the crime. I mean, have you ever been watching a TV show, right? And you see the whole court, the judge, the jury, all the lawyers. They all show up at the crime scene. And you think to yourself, wait a minute, can they really do that? Well, the answer is a big yes. They totally can. It's a real procedure. It's called a locus in quo visit, and it is way more than just a dramatic TV trope. In fact, the reason we're talking about it today is because in Sierra Leone, the rules for these visits just got a massive overhaul, bringing this old school practice right into the digital age.
Yeah, you can almost think of it as a courtroom field trip, but, with incredibly high stakes. The whole point is for everyone to see the actual physical space where things happened. And that's exactly where the old rules and the new ones start to look very, very different.
See, the old way under a law from back in 1965 was, well, it was kind of a mess. It was way too informal. These visits often had no real structure, which, as you can imagine, led to all sorts of mistakes and even got convictions overturned on appeal. But now, the new 2024 Criminal Procedure Act, it changes everything. It brings in strict rules and even technology to make sure the evidence they gather is absolutely rock solid. So you might be asking, why go to all this trouble? Why is this even necessary? Well, it's because sometimes a physical place tells a story that you just can't capture with words in a courtroom. The scene itself has to become part of the evidence. The fancy legal term for this is locus in quo. It's Latin for, you guessed it, the place in which. And the idea here is pretty cool. During one of these visits, the scene, whether it's a dark alley, a piece of land everyone's fighting over, or a living room, it literally transforms. It stops being just a location and becomes what's called real evidence, just as real and tangible as a fingerprint or a weapon.
Okay, so when would a judge actually order one of these visits? It usually boils down to three main reasons. First, to clear up stuff that's just ambiguous. If a witness says they saw something over a wall, the court can go and see for themselves. Hey, could anyone really see over that 10-foot wall? Second, to check the physical facts. Was that streetlight they mentioned actually working that night? And third, and this is a big one, to check a witness's credibility. The court can literally go stand in the exact spot the witness was standing and figure out, okay, could they really have seen what they claim they saw from here?
But here's the absolute golden rule, and this comes straight from case law. A visit is a tool to help the court understand the evidence they've already heard. It is not, and I mean absolutely not, a chance for the judge to put on a detective hat and start their own private investigation. Right, so because this is so much more than just a casual walkthrough, the new law lays down some very, very strict rules. And if you get these wrong, you could put the whole trial in jeopardy. There are three things that are total must-haves for a valid visit, no exceptions. 1. The entire court moves. The judge, jury, lawyers, and most importantly, the accused. They all have to be there. 2. How people act on site. Witnesses can show what they talked about in court. I was standing right here, but they cannot add any new information. No new evidence is allowed, period. And 3. It has to be formally recorded. The judge has to create an official record, which now often means using digital tools. And let's just double down on that first point for a second. The accused has to be there. This isn't just a good idea, it's their constitutional right under Sierra Leone's 1991 Constitution. Think about it. A site visit without the accused is basically the same as holding part of the trial while they're not even in the room. And that's a massive violation of justice. Okay, this is where the new 2024 Act gets really interesting and, well, kind of futuristic. It brings technology right into the heart of this process. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about a whole new tech toolkit. Things like drone footage to get a bird's eye view of a scene, GPS mapping to get exact distances, even 360-degree photography to capture a space so you can look around it later. And get this, the law even opens the door for completely virtual locus visits if a physical trip is just too dangerous or impossible. What all this tech really does is kind of revolutionary. It gives the court the power to essentially freeze a scene in time. It creates this perfect, verifiable record that can be looked at again and again. And all this while getting around the huge logistical headache of trying to move an entire court to a physical location. All right, so we've got the why and the how. But what happens when things go wrong? Let's take a look at some of the major pitfalls that can completely tank a case. So, pitfall number 1, the judge as a witness. This is a huge no-no. A judge can never, ever visit the site alone or do their own little private investigation. Why? Because if they do, they see things that the prosecution and the defense don't get to see. They basically become a witness in their own trial, and nobody can cross-examine what they saw. It's a fatal error. Next up, the danger of hearsay at the site. You can imagine when a court shows up, a crowd is going to gather. You'll have people shouting out their own opinions. Oh, I saw this, or that's not how it happened. None of that is sworn testimony. It's all just inadmissible hearsay, and the court has to tune it out completely. And the third major mistake is not giving the other side a chance to challenge new information. Let's say a witness at the scene suddenly points to something new, like, oh, and by the way, the car was parked over here, which is different from what they said in court. Well, the opposing lawyer must have the opportunity to cross-examine them about that new detail right then and there. It's all about fairness. So let's just boil it all down into a quick checklist. For a site visit to be legit, you need a few things. First, attendance. Everyone has to be there, especially the accused. That's their constitutional right. Second, witnesses. They can only demonstrate what they've already said, not add new testimony. Third, the record. Everything has to be formally recorded, whether on paper or digitally. And finally, the purpose. It's always about clarifying the evidence, not finding new evidence. If you get those pillars right, justice has a strong foundation to stand on. You know, this new law in Sierra Leone is a huge leap forward, mixing these ancient legal principles with some really cutting-edge tech. And it leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to think about. If the location of a crime can now be visited virtually, what's next? I mean, could we start to see virtual witness testimony, or maybe even digital juries become the norm? The courtroom, as we know it, is changing. And honestly, this feels like just the beginning.